Hey, it's the last I got to hear of it all fucking year. No, probably not. He'll text it to me 80 times before the night's out. How fat's your face today?
You like, remember the guy's like, he has a fat face, and you're like, fuck, I do have a pretty fat face in that camera this week.
I saw that one. I was like, fuck, my face looks extra fucking fat.
Okay, so episode 18, we're live. We were just talking about, I just sold 1,000 pair of hater blockers since last week.
They don't exist. You just tell me how fat my face is.
No.
You should sit over here so we
All
can
right,
see
so
it from
we
your
had to
angle.
adjust the cameras this week, guys, because Matt's face was a little large in the last episode, 17.
What a dick you are.
So
That's
he
the last
called.
time I
So
got here in 20
my
this
new
year.
my new nickname is the Prophecy because I text Matt every morning. You, no matter what, I don't ask any other questions.
You fucking broke. Every morning I wake up to, hey, what's going on today? How fucking broke are you today?
So he'll text me and said, "Hey, podcast at 10." I said, "You're broke." All right, so episode 18. I can't believe we're on 18 episodes already. It is our last episode of 2021, which is absolutely crazy. We're supposed to be flying in like jets and ships or whatever now, cars.
We're broke.
Yeah,
we can't afford anything. I was going to get a Greyhound ticket.
If you remember,
to LA.
all the movies used to have like 2020 as like futuristic everything.
Yeah, think of Back to the Future. It was something like that. It's a year 2012.
Yeah.
I forgot what year it was in that where they got flying cars, and I'm like, man, we ain't advanced at all.
It's nothing, right? I mean, we're still fighting electric cars and gasoline prices and
I know
everything
you
else.
still got cars that get 3 miles per
I know,
gallon.
but that's okay because we don't look at the
That's
gas.
why you're broke.
Yeah, we don't look at the gas. So,
What'd you do for Christmas?
Christmas, went to Jersey.
How
Went
was
to
that?
Jersey to see Angie's family. Didn't go home. So normally my routine is I go home for Thanksgiving to Mass, spend time with my family, but a lot of people had the COVID test. So I was kind of a little turned off by that. So I decided, you know what, I'm not going to travel Thanksgiving. We looked for a sushi place. We talked about that, and we couldn't find one. She went back to her family. But for Christmas, I went to New Jersey. We stayed at her sister's, and then we actually spent 2 nights in the city, which was kind of cool. I mean, it's not what it used to be. So New York is different. I mean, I'm okay with the masks and the vaccine cards and all that stuff. Like that's understandable. But it's definitely like looking around. There's a lot of places that close, like a Starbucks we used to go to when we went to the tree. We actually went to see the tree one night. Right where we used to buy hot chocolate right there was closed. I mean, that just goes to show. I mean, that's probably one of the busier Starbucks at that time. We did a horse carriage ride through Central Park. What was cool is we talk about this a lot, is the cool Christmas stuff. We got to see the Home Alone scenes where, you know, I just watched the movie.
Home Alone 2?
Yeah, I don't know if I told you. I went. So they had like this outdoor rooftop, but like they made this whole top of this parking structure in downtown Vegas, and they put up a big movie screen. So it was like outdoors. They put big bean bags, and you brought blankets, and you could bring your food or whatever. Yep. And they were showing Christmas movies, and one of them was Home Alone 2, and it was the one where they went to New York. So I just got to watch that. So it was like, it was kind of still in my mind fresh. When we went there, we got to see the Plaza Hotel where, you know, Home Alone was filmed. And then obviously the scenes like in Central Park where, you know, the bird woman was there, and then the skating rink and all that.
Did they have like something set up to actually show you?
No, they didn't. But when we did the horse and buggy thing, which was about 20 minutes, and it goes through the outskirts of Central Park, he kind of said, okay, this is where this movie was filmed, that movie. There was a couple other ones like Serendipity or something was filmed. Like he told about, but he mentioned Home Alone quite a few times. Yeah. That's where the scene of this or that. So it was kind of cool. And it did get to flurry a little bit as we were doing that. So it kind of set the scene a little bit. But for me, growing up on the East Coast, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers or listeners would agree, and you would, Christmas isn't the same unless it snows, in my opinion.
Of course.
Like I used to love our snowy Christmases.
It was always like that. Up until I was maybe
8, I was in Florida, and then we moved to Wisconsin, and it was always snowy there. You know, it's just all part of it. You look outside,
we always wished for a white Christmas.
Yeah. I don't know where that came from, but it just always seemed better. You know, you look out the window and like you crack the windows and cool breeze comes through and you watch, you know, sit by the fireplace with the tree.
But maybe it's me, I mean, being my age now, but I kind of remember as a child, it was snowing for every single Christmas, but for the past 20 years, it seems like it's never happened.
No, I had maybe 4 out of the last 6 or 7 years I was back in Wisconsin during Christmas. One of the years we didn't get snow until January. Like none. And it was like in the 60s in the early December. It's just something, it's a lot different. But it was we used to always have snow on the ground by Thanksgiving. And then it was just snowy until March. And on Christmas, it would always, you know, on a Christmas day, if you had the big, huge flakes coming down, it just made it feel better.
Yeah. And we, you know, we opened gifts like pretty late, like in the afternoon, like her family came around 3:00 on Christmas. But I know when it was with my family and being younger, growing up, like we were up at like 6:00 opening gifts.
Racing
like we
downstairs.
couldn't wait, like because that was so exciting. And we always talk about the Christmas for kids stuff. I mean, having 7 children, you know, total in my family, including myself.
I'm picturing you right now in that little bunny thing from Christmas Story with some big glasses on, running downstairs with the Red Ryder.
Never wore glasses, but I wore like the singlets, the
onesie,
the onesies, yeah. So, but it was cool. We got to stay at this Soho Grand Hotel, so we stayed in like Soho area. Went to a pretty cool restaurant. Went to some Mexican food one night. You know, just kind of did a little bit of the tourist stuff. We didn't shop, but it was cool and got some time with our family, you know, and visit, which I only see them usually once a year. And then we came home and back to business, you know, and then we'll kind of recap 2021 since we're kind of here at the end. And I know we jotted a few things down. Let's talk about a couple of these.
Some of the biggest stories. I think one of the bigger stories is a lot of the deaths. That
I hate talking about that, though.
I do too, and I'm hoping that 2022 isn't the same. And you know, I know everyone has their opinions on why this is happening, and I don't know the different people that passed. None of us really know what the reasons were, but it just seemed to be a lot this year and a lot of big names.
Yeah, the most notable, obviously, they're closer to us are Sean Roden, John Meadows, who I shot content with like right before it happened.
A week before,
yeah, 2 weeks before with both of them, and then George Peterson
at the Olympia weekend.
You know, and then we've had like Matt Mendenhalls, and I mean Chris Dickerson, who was like my idol when I first started. I always mention at 12, I picked up a magazine with Chris Dickerson, and that's who he's passed since then. I mean, even like John Madden passed the other day, right?
Yeah, I when I was driving home from eating the other night, I drove by the stadium and had a huge
I mean, and obviously
because John Madden, I mean, I don't care who you are. If you watch football, if John Madden was calling the game, it was a big game. Yeah, like he just, I don't know, it just seemed a little different when he was calling the games. I don't think he has for a while though.
No, I mean, but you know, of course, everyone knows Madden.
The only thing I always remembered about him was he would not fly.
Yep,
he drove his bus. Yeah. He had a tour bus everywhere he went. And even if he went to like the Pro Bowl, he took a cruise. He took a boat there.
I wonder why he didn't fly.
He said he was extremely claustrophobic.
Okay.
And he couldn't, and he just couldn't fly. There's a couple other people that are like that. DJ Khaled used to be like that, and Fat Joe was like that for many years. And I know Fat Joe started flying.
I mean, I don't like to fly. We talk about that a lot. I mean, the trip was very. I remember I texted you or whatever, we spoke on the phone. I said, you know, it's just so easy for me to fly because of my status. You know, I got. Yeah. Once again, $1,000 for next year for United.
Yeah, you got grandfathered in. Yeah, I had to pay for it.
So I think they didn't do it with everyone, though. No. We talked about that. You know, I have Clear. I have Global TSA. And, you know, that status $1,000 allows us to get on that plane.
Right through.
Like, literally, you know, before first class, right? So we board immediately. So when I went to the airport, it wasn't as busy as I thought, but I'll tell you, coming home and going through Newark, the TSA line was probably 150 people deep. Yeah. And I had Clear, bro, and I rolled right up, cut her over, and I went right. There was no one in Clear, and I went right forward.
It's worth it. I think Clear's like $179, but we get it for free.
So how do we get it free?
You can get it free through Amex Platinum or $1,000.
Yeah.
Either one.
So So our viewers or listeners get your clear,
Yes.
because everyone has TSA now.
Yes.
And with travel the way it is, and you guys wanting to get through a little quicker, remember, you don't have to take your shoes off with the TSA line. The laptops don't have to come out, right?
Nope. You know, in the week before, I flew to Florida for nationals, and I remember texting you. I was thinking, man, I flew out at like 2 p.m. So I was thinking, it's going to be nothing here. It was absolutely packed. Even the clear line had at least 15 people in front of me.
Wow.
I've never seen it like that. It was a madhouse. I'm thinking, why is it so nuts? It's 2:00 on a random Thursday. But for whatever reason, it was crazy. But did you have any problems with the flights?
No, it was great. Flew United there. I did a layover through Chicago, and then landed in Philly, and then we ended up flying out of Newark. We rented a car. We returned the rental car like 2 days early because there was no reason to have a car in the city.
No.
And rental cars are absolutely insane right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we paid $500 for like 4 days or something.
You know what? You could damn near Uber for that.
Yeah.
It's not even worth it.
So we did spend a lot on Ubers, though, because we black car Ubered. Just because,
You too
number
good to
one,
do a
we had
regular
a
car?
ton of luggage because we brought extra luggage because of gifts. So when we had gone to the airport from the rental car place and then back, you needed I think we had a van or something on the way back.
So,
So it was good. So we talked about the deaths a little bit, which is very unfortunate. I want to talk about probably the highlight of bodybuilding fitness is the rookie. I don't know if we can call him a rookie, but
it was
the
his
performance
It was his first full year
season, right?
Because he turned pro, and he did one show after he turned pro,
Mm-hmm.
and then coming into 2021, that was his rookie season. I don't count the season before because, if you just turn pro and you jump into a show, the odds of doing well aren't, So it was his.
All right,
first
so Nick Walker. Nick Walker is definitely our superstar. He's the MVP of
Yes.
bodybuilding fitness.
I think in all
breakthrough.
divisions across the board. When's the last time, can you remember, where somebody turned pro in their first year, they win the New York Pro, which is the third most prestigious show in the world. They win the Arnold, and then they get top 5 at the Olympia. Arguably, in my opinion, I thought he should have been 4th.
Yeah.
But when's the last? I think the only other person I can think of that did that crazy right out the gate, I think Flex Wheeler won the Arnold his rookie year. I know Dorian Yates won the New York Pro, and then didn't he get second at the Olympia?
Yeah.
He didn't win the Arnold, but
He never did the Arnold.
and then you said Mike Francois had won.
Mike Francois won the Night of Champions his first year. Then he went to the Arnold and won that the next year.
but it wasn't the same.
And then he finished 7th at the Olympia.
Okay. So Nick is on path in the same direction as between.
And listen,
Flex-
Phil Heath, I mean, he didn't compete the year he turned pro. He waited. He qualified, but he didn't, he won everything.
2
But then he
shows.
went to his first Olympia and got 3rd. So
But that first Olympia was 3 years after he turned
yes.
But he
And
never
was,
won an
and he
Arnold.
was, and I don't know what his age was comparable to Walker's, but listen, I
think-
always said Walker has a lot of shape. Listen, they talk about his torso, being a little lengthy, and I know his waist isn't the smallest, but the crazy arms and his back double is just out of this world. I mean, definitely needs to work on the legs a little bit, the pecs, but the arms are just world class.
Yeah.
He is just going to be keep climbing. I mean,
It's interesting to see what he can do in this offseason, because from the looks of it, he's not doing any shows until the Olympia.
yeah, I was surprised because you can tell he's full now. You know what I mean?
Big as a house.
Yeah, he's big, and he's not as hard, so that's really good that he's letting his body, adjust a little bit. And I mean, I've only seen him since he turned pro, and he was.
Do you think it
always
was a
in
mistake
shape.
him not doing the Arnold?
Listen, I never want to speak on anyone's personal versus professional decisions. I think he would have won it. It's a lot of money, man. And I just hate to, I know he needed a break.
Yeah.
And, I just don't know going to the Olympia, can he move up? I know he says he's going to win or whatever else, but
He's got some mountains to climb.
yeah, he's to be in top 5, it's just very difficult unless you make leaps and bounds, and maybe that's what he plans on doing.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to second guess what his decision is, because he shocked everyone. Even I did expect him to do well. I was there. I mean, I don't know. I just think his condition would have put him over some of the other places.
I thought he should have been in 4th. That's just my opinion.
So I don't know. It's hard to say.
It's tough.
It's a little soon, you know.
It's at that age, it's tough to turn down that type of potential paycheck. You're a professional bodybuilder, but I would assume he knows his body, and in order for him to turn that down, there must be a reason that he's saying, hey, I need a break. I know this is great money, but he's probably planning on being around for another 10, 15 years. So he'll have other opportunities to make that money.
Yeah, and listen, Hunter, you know, coming fourth, that was pretty huge achievement too.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, he's on like a crazy trend too. I mean, some of these new guys, like it's overshadowing like the William Bonnecks and
I mean, Bonnet would even sixth.
Even Big Ramy, like, you know, it was very close between him and Brandon's consistency is great too. But and listen, I'm talking open bodybuilding here because that's what I follow close. I mean, listen, Chris Bumstead made a great statement too. I mean, we kind of, it's like it was expected, so maybe his achievement wasn't so large.
I don't think his was as large because he had already won 2.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, you won another one, you're the most superior guy, but Nick just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are excited for Nick because he just has the right personality and just like, you can, you know, he just works his ass off. I admire that about him, and he shows it. I mean, he's done a great job. So, all right, what else? Supplement.
Let's talk about the supply chain, like the issues that are going on with it.
Yeah, so I had a call with my manufacturer yesterday because I'm launching this new high stem Prevail version 2, which I have nitrates in there, and it's just more caffeine and, you know, a lot more.
Is it gonna make me sweat like the last
one?
one?
It's really good though. A lot of focus. You know, has all the you know, everything in a pre-workout you would want. But I'm finalizing it, just trying to get the flavors correct. But I talked to him about lids because lids was an issue, plastics, creatine, obviously that, you know, citrulline prices are through the roof. You know, a lot of people are adjusting what they sell based on what inventory is available. As we know, containers are crazy. I mean, we talk about the cars and other things. Let's supplements are a whole nother thing, but just the containers, because all these containers, you know, basically, you know, came over, and what's going back from the United States. You talk about this a lot. Well, what do we sell?
The problem is in America, we don't produce shit anymore. Yeah. We just don't. So when all these containers are coming in, whether it's from China or South Korea or Japan, or in the, you know, a lot of stuff comes out of Vietnam, Taiwan, Thailand. When these containers come over, there's a certain cost to get them here. For many years throughout our country's history, they would come over, and then we would fill those containers up with our goods, and we'd sell them back. So we had a good, you know, supply chain going back and forth, trade. Well, now what's happening is these containers are coming here, and we don't produce anything. We have nothing that they want. So now you have to pay that cost for them to come here. They budget in to get them back to refill them up. So what's happening is everything's doubled up. So I'm assuming if you get something from overseas to where, let's say a container used to be, like I remember when I was young, I'd help my uncle figure them out, and it was like $2,000 to have a 40-foot container come across. Now I'm 10, 15, 20 grand, depending on where it's coming from.
Yeah, I mean, listen, even trucking, I mean, when I was paying, you know, $3,000 to ship protein across the country, it's costing me, you know, $8 grand now. So the containers.
So are you taking that hit, or are you slicing?
No, I'm not pushing it to the consumer. I mean, I'm just kind of taking, you know, I'm hoping that it adjusts correctly, if that makes sense. But I mean, it's going to drive up pricing altogether. I talked about the protein issue. Like, I went out and sourced my own protein. So normally, like, if I manufacture protein, you know, the manufacturer has the protein on hand. It's allocated to, you know, my brand. But I actually sourced, and I'm actually shipping my protein that I sourced. But, you know, I laid out over $500,000 for protein. Yeah. So it's like, the price is crazy.
What do you think, and this is just a random prediction, and I don't know if you'll even know the answer for this. How many brands do you think can't weather this type of storm where they don't have a big enough customer base where they're selling a certain amount to make up for the money, or they don't have, you know, you can be a multi-million-dollar company, you can be $100 million company and still have cash flow issues. How many companies do you think are going to not weather this storm because they don't have the capital to put up $500,000?
Well, I think, you know, listen, when we talk about proteins, like when I started my supplement company, I didn't launch the protein. Like, that wasn't my first thing. It was like, okay, Amino's pre-workout, right? Because it's a little cheaper to manufacture. and the margins are much better, right?
And it takes a small amount of space in your warehouse.
Yes, and you can stock shelves whether you're selling to retail or whatever else. Shipping is a big issue that you have with protein now. Like when I ship direct to consumer, my business is Amazon direct to consumer, so the cost of shipping obviously to the consumer now is more expensive. So I need to try to figure out, okay, number one, do the volume, but number two, you have to basically look at, okay, these are the products I offer. So if I'm a smaller company starting off, I'm going to focus on the SKUs that, whether it's capsules that are cheaper to make than some of the powders or whatever else, I'm going to look at ingredients and say, okay, how can I build this company and get a rhythm going with the consumer, and then eventually, build off of that. And I fortunately started my company a year before COVID, right? So I was able to, kind of get some traction, and now it's continued to grow. And, we've broken records every single year. In 2021, I'll do more revenue than I did in 2020. Every year it's gone up. Although like the supply chain is a little tighter, we've tried to stay ahead of that. And that's why I mentioned like sourcing protein. Like I'm way ahead on certain things and containers. I'm looking at doing some different things with packaging now, and you guys will see that coming up for Cutler Nutrition. I've sourced that now. I
remember us talking about that at one of the meetings at one of the manufacturers. They're showing the different options.
Yeah, so I'm aware of certain sizes that aren't available. Plastics are going up. We talked about this just before we came on about inflation and the cost of things. I mean, we could talk about the cars. I mean, for the first time ever, I'm selling cars and making money right now, which is almost impossible for high-end vehicles. I mean, I have like 5 cars on order right now, and right now, hopefully, if it sustains, I'll be able to turn these cars and make money. So you're not going to really run into that in a lifetime, but we also talk about what's the market going to do and what's the adjustment.
And I just have a different opinion than a lot of people on this. Everyone thinks, oh, it's going to correct itself. I don't think certain markets aren't going to correct themselves.
Not so soon. I mean, not so
it's
soon.
Because the reason prices are going up is because the U.S. dollar, it's not that let me reframe that. It's not that the prices are going up or the value is going up. You need more dollars to buy it because we printed more currency in 1 year than it was like in 1 year we printed 40% of the currency. It's from the history of this country from 1776 in 1 year. If you have more dollars in circulation, you need more dollars to buy things. It makes them less valuable. So when you're buying a commodity, which protein is, when you're buying commodities, you're going to need, if inflation is 10%, you're going to need 10% more dollars to buy that. This isn't something that all of a sudden the currency is going to be worth more unless they destroy $5 trillion worth of the currency, but there's no way of detecting that. So it's not going to get better. It's going to get worse. Now, I mean, sure, maybe the housing market, if they raise interest rates, the housing rates will come down. But certain things that we need,
listen, the cost to build a home isn't what it was. It's almost half more than what it would cost you 2 years ago for supplies.
I've been, like you and I talk about this all the time. Yeah. I want to build a house or buy a house out here. And unless you're going to spend, in all honesty, if you want to build a house, unless you're going to spend $1 million, you're not going to have a nice piece of land and a really nice house unless you spend $1 million. Just think about that. 3 years ago in Vegas, for $1 million, you could buy a really, really nice house.
When I moved here, I paid $350 for a mansion.
And how much do you think that house is worth today?
It's worth $1.5 million.
So look at that, $1.5 million. And that house shouldn't be worth $1.5 million. No. What was it, 4,000 square feet?
It was 3,300 feet.
Yeah, and that's not crazy, but you wouldn't think that would be $1.5 million. I mean, $1.5 million in most of America, you're getting a 8,000 square foot, maybe on the water, bunch of land, big house. It's still a nice house, but I don't think this supply chain cost of certain things are going to correct themselves.
No, so I mean, my pre-workouts are more to make now. Aminos have gone up, obviously fundamentals, which is my creatine, leucine product. The cost of creatine's gone up, but I'm not raising prices currently. It's stayed kind of the same, and obviously I'm respectful to my customers.
So you don't have to, because one, you're direct to consumer, and you don't have crazy overhead.
I don't have overhead,
to where some of these companies,
I do have overhead. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I have a 20,000 foot warehouse, but it's, like I said, it's stationed in Pennsylvania. My staff is limited, right? I have certain people doing things, but I don't have a huge staff.
No, you don't have overhead like a lot of these companies do. And sometimes I see different brands out there, and you see people on social media, and you see what they're building or what they have, and the things they buy, and how big their staff is, and the stuff that they upgrade, and then you just have to ask yourself, like, man, if your numbers get a little bit tighter, you might wish you didn't do that, because it's not a necessity what you're doing. It's great to have, a nice office and really super nice stuff, but it's not a necessity. Yeah. So I'm just wondering how many of these brands are going to be able to weather the storm. But
yeah, what's really cool, though, I do want to mention that Prevail did reach page 1 on Amazon, which is a big achievement for me. It's got a ton of reviews on there, over 1,300 reviews, and it's going to do really, really well. So, all right, so what else you want to talk about Arnold?
No, I think we should touch on it. It was a big story of the year. Arnold had a gaffe, and I think a lot of people took it out of context and really went after him. And I think it was a big story throughout the year. We didn't really touch on it much because neither of us really have a strong opinion about it either way. But I think
listen, my opinion is I live my life with 0 restrictions. It seems like everyone's sick right now, out of control, and I don't know what's right or wrong right now. I mean, I don't know what the testing is, if it's correct or.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I don't whatever somebody says.
I'm just sick. I'm just sick of all the bullshit. But so with Arnold's thing, I mean, I think it was just taken out of context. I mean, I'm not going to sit there and jump on one side or the other, but. Yeah. Listen, I wear a mask. Like I told you, I went to New York. I wore a mask when I had to. I'm not listen, it is what it is. I flew on the plane with a mask. Do I want to do it? No. Am I avoiding travel because of the mask? Yes. Do I think it does anything? No. Everyone's still getting sick because of vaccine shots. It doesn't matter. I mean, they say, well, you don't get as sick. Like, listen, I was sick already. I was very sick, but it's just, like, people just have their opinion, and I don't think you should judge people on what their beliefs are or not. So I'm not going to get into that. But, I just think there's a lot of misinformation out there, and I think that everyone just needs to keep doing what they do, stay as healthy, work out, stay active, eat healthy. Like, everyone eats like shit. So, I mean, let's talk more about that.
What it comes down to for me is you just have to choose your battles.
That's all. And I'm not going to get on there and just take one side or the other, and I'm not going to judge people on it. I'm just going to
keep moving.
I am going to block out the shit that I don't want to listen to.
Put your hater blockers on.
That's it. Yeah, hater blockers. Yeah, you're right. All right. So wellness popularity, the wellness division.
The wellness division, to me, it just kind of this year it kind of took the industry by storm. And usually when you see a new division, there'll be some interest in it, whatnot. But when I was at the Olympia this year, and like I mentioned in one of our past podcasts, I had to take Liz Conley to the stage because she was giving out the award to whoever won the Olympia, because Trifecta is a title sponsor. In the sea of people that was around that stage, it reminded me of the Arnold when the strongmen were up there. There were thousands and thousands of people holding up, filming, and it was hard to get her through the crowd to the stage. It doesn't happen like that for other divisions. And this is only the first year. So my question is, what happens year in and year out? How big does it get now that it's a legit class? It's here to stay, and we'll see.
When is wellness on for the Arnold Classic? Was it on Friday or Saturday?
I don't know exactly, but it's going to be one of them.
And who's competing at the Arnold Wellness?
All the top girls except the reigning Miss Olympia.
Okay.
She's not.
What's her name?
Francine.
She's from Brazil, right?
Yep, she's from Brazil.
So our girl, Yarishna, that's
Yarishna. Yep, I manage Yarishna.
She's exciting to.
She's going to be doing the Arnold, and I anticipate her to do very, very, very well.
Okay, and then Olympia stage. So we want to talk about the setup on the Olympia stage. It blew away even the years prior. Right?
I thought that was just like this year. I just thought it was something to highlight. I remember when we walked in, walking towards the front. It made me feel like I was walking into a massive concert that you paid hundreds and hundreds of dollars for to go see this massive stage at an arena. And it felt it didn't feel like a bodybuilding show. It felt like you were going.
It was loud as hell. I know that.
Oh, you could feel it in your heart.
It was a little too loud, some of the music.
But overall, I thought it was a sight to see.
Yeah, I'm just glad. I'll be honest, like the last couple of years with it moving last minute to Orlando and, it coming back to Vegas now and I know that the Zappos is supposed to be unbelievable. I'm really glad I competed when it was at Mandalay and the Orleans, because we kind of knew there wasn't this, is it going to happen? Is it going to be delayed? Is it going to, it was just so easy because my prep was like uninterrupted. Does that make sense?
Of course.
And with the Arnold, like I knew everything was routine. So there was
if they switch it around, I know it doesn't seem like a big deal to people, but if you have your schedule and all of a sudden you have to get a new place to stay, when you're used to staying in your house, you got to figure out, where am I going to stay? Where are my people going to stay? How am I going to fly there? Is there a direct flight? Like that's a lot of stress.
It's like masks and, just like, how is it going to affect, like, am I going to be able to get food as easily? Like what wrestronts are going to be open? What, where
when you used to do the Arnold, how far out in front would you fly in?
The event was on Saturday. I would fly in on Monday.
So you'd always get there a week.
Yeah.
Did you like retain a lot of water from?
No, I didn't. But I just like to get acclimated and just be in my rhythm. Yeah. And Lloyd would pick me up and take me to the supermarket or whatever. And we didn't back then. There was no Uber, so you got rides. John Meadows drove me one year, and then I would find a gym. Usually I trained at the World Gym. There was, I think, Lormer owned it or something.
Yeah. I
went there and I trained, but it was just much easier. But the last week I was just kind of messing around with weights. It wasn't like it was a big thing. So I just like to get acclimated and be settled. It's like when I came to Olympia every year when I lived in California, I remember planting myself at Mandalay Bay back in, 99, 2000, 2001. I came out for Sunday. So I would get there Sunday and the show was, the Friday, Saturday. It was Saturday. I think we did a one-day show then.
So you actually stayed there the whole week?
Yeah, I stayed a whole week. And I remember Chris Cicito and I going looking at real estate during the week before the Olympia. I remember going out to the Tropicana before it got to 215. So you drive out Tropicana. The 215 didn't exist. It just ended. And we looked at homes. We looked at Spanish Hills and all that. Yeah. And I remember Chris and I were looking at homes man, look at this, back in 01. Before that Olympia, and that's when I kind of started to get my wheels turning, and then I came to visit, Trevor and Nancy Smith at the time, around when I was prepping for the Arnold in 2002, and that's when I'm like, shoot, I want to move here, All right, so what else? New Year's in Vegas.
What are you going to do?
I have dinner plans tonight. I'm going to go eat Italian, just kind of chill out, but man, I've had some great times of New Year's in Las Vegas.
Explain to people that have never been to Las Vegas.
Well, they shut the strip down.
And then
they set the fireworks off at midnight. Where do they set the fireworks, Jay? They used to do all the hotels.
Yeah. I went 2 years ago and they launched them off Planet Hollywood.
Yeah, so they used to do, every hotel would go off.
On the roof?
Yeah, so they picked 6 or 7 hotels and they used to do, so that was back before the craziness. I don't know who has scheduled fireworks this year, but I've stayed on the strip. I lived on it.
You have to.
I lived at the Mandarin at one point, but I stayed at Cosmo. I stayed all over the place, and we've had even the first year I think Angie and I were together. We stayed on the strip at the Waldorf Astoria, which is the Mandarin. We stayed there in a hotel, and it was a blast, But they closed the strip, so we ate at STK.
3 o'clock.
So where we went the other night with Dan. We went to STK. They had a set menu, which I hate the set menus. That's what drives me crazy. So when we made reservations for tonight, I said, do you guys have a set menu? They said, no. I said, perfect, because I'm not going to eat at a set menu restaurant. So they closed the strip off. People are walking. I forget what the number is, they say, of people walking. Do you know what the number, Jay? How many people go to Vegas?
It's stupid.
So they close, and they just have police everywhere, and people go crazy. He's going to look it up right now.
See, I used to come out here for work in the late 2000s, and I'd fly back and forth. So I never knew the strip was closed like that, because we would fly in, we would stay at the hotel, and then the hotel we were staying at, we would have a nightclub that we were working at. So we never ventured out anywhere.
See that?
300,000 people all just on the strip. That's 299,000 more than I want.
Almost as many that attend the Mr. Olympia contest.
Exactly. No, but it's so the first time I ever went there, like not staying there for work, I drove up and one of my friends like, hey, come visit. And I was like, all right, shit, I got nothing else going on. And I had to park at the Palms.
Yeah.
Well, that particular year, it was like 25 degrees. And I didn't think anything of it. So I just put on a flannel and just with a t-shirt and went. And I started walking. And you don't realize how far it is until you have to walk it. So you have to walk and go up over the freeway. And then she was down at City Center. And you don't realize, dude, you don't realize how far that is. It took me 45 minutes. But once you get on the strip, you can't just walk. You're stepping around people and there's cans all over the place. And it's mayhem. And I want nothing to do with that disaster.
Yeah, it's funny because I've done the pole party thing. I've gone to the clubs, the Dre's after hours, ended up at the Spearmint Rhino at 7 a.m. Crazy.
What a mess you are.
No, it was great, man. It was fun times.
Why don't you do it this year?
Nah, man. I'm a little more chill now. I kind of, as you get a little older, you get a little wiser, right? So it's funny. I went around yesterday. So I was at, I went to Atomics and I went to the print shop and I was just out and about, like stopping by a different place. I'm like, so what's the plan for New Year's? And not one person said they were doing anything.
No.
Everyone's like, I'm just going to chill. Family, we're staying home. But it seems like, man, like not as many people. So when we look it up and it says 300,000 people, it's like, I know a couple people that are flying into Vegas to come for New Year's because everyone's question is what's it like in Vegas? And I just say everyone, it's normal. Even though I don't know, I guess masks.
They have mask mandate, but they don't enforce it.
Yeah, like you go in the club, maybe you have to wear it as you're walking in, but no one in the club
even when you walk in a casino now, they'll say, hey, where's your mask? I'm like, it's in my car, and you just keep walking. They don't say anything.
If you don't stop, they don't say much. No. But, like I said, if that's the end of the world, then, but it's like they're not asking for vaccine cards. They're not, obviously, limitations. They're not doing like capacity limits. So I'm sure Miami and Vegas are still like the two hot spots. I'm sure Scottsdale, certain New York City, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff going on. But it's going to be a chill one for us. But I'm really excited for 2022. I just posted up yesterday thanking everyone on Instagram that follows me. And, everyone kind of sets their plans forward. And as you know, I'm working on a lot of online training and whatnot. So I have this big challenge that starts on January 31st, like 6 months to the best physique change to come fly to Vegas and spend time and be on the Jay Cutler TV and all that. So I'm really looking forward to, just really kicking off and motivating more people more than ever because like we said, we don't have a ton of expos booked, even though I'm sure stuff will pop up. Yeah. But I'm really excited to doing more stuff online. This podcast, we're almost to 20 episodes, which is absolutely crazy. And we've been... we might have missed a week here, but we've been really consistent. I want to thank you for making sure, hey, we have to get this film. And, of course, Jay for making time to come over and do this. And, for the most important, the fans and the people that are following online, the supporters that are giving us the questions and commenting, keeping us, active with it because they've shown a lot of interest. You just said our stats are really, really solid. So
one thing you should mention, too, going into 2022, you're involved with the Pro Show.
Yeah, the Boston Pro. Yeah. So that's going to be the week after the Arnolds.
Yep.
Okay, so
I think it's cool that you're tied to a show in Boston where it all started. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And here we are, come full circle, and now you're
tickets go on sale tomorrow, actually, at thebostonpro.com. So you guys can. I'll have more information on Instagram, but it's a pro show. It is a week after the Arnold, so hopefully we're going to get a lot of spillover. It has all the divisions that the Arnold has, basically.
Yep.
And I'll be there present. I know Phil Heath is going. I know Ronnie Coleman's there. A lot of big faces that will be active. So let's get to some questions and then we'll wrap it up.
All right. So the first question: with the world moving to network app type world like Peacock and Disney, would bodybuilding network make sense and profit? Would Jay Cutler back this type of platform?
I don't know. I don't know much about like Peacock, or I don't really know what. I didn't really do. This is kind of a question I'm not real familiar with. You know what that is?
So would it mean, basically what he's saying is a lot of these networks now have an app.
Yeah.
Where you can watch it. You can ESPN as an app, and you can pay for services. Would bodybuilding do well if it had a similar thing where, hey, you can pay $39.99 or $10.99 a month in any pro shows you can watch?
I think it would do well, but I think that bodybuilding would need a little more substance other than just showing the straight competition. Like I think if they did like a Showtime or a 24/7 series where it shows the background of the individual, just like UFC does, like when they highlight the fights, if you notice leading up to, like Dustin Poirier fight, they show the training and like, oh, these are the things that he
Their
does
home,
outside.
their wife, their
what
kids.
kind of drives them, and some background on the people. Because listen, the average person coming in and just watching two guys go against each other, and same thing with bodybuilding, like it needs to have a story behind it. So. Yeah. I think if bodybuilding, and listen, we always talk about content is everything, and consistency with that content is everything. That's hence why I just mentioned the podcast, staying on it. You have to stay constant with everything in life, whether it's relationships, whether it's your diet, whether it's your training, whether it's your work schedule, whether it's your school, everything. You have to stay consistent. That's people's hardest obstacle. So when I say, content, it needs to be consistent content that relates to that person other than just slapping up, hey, here's a competition. There's no background to it. Like when they told the Arnold story in Pumping Iron, it had a whole background to it. Yeah. Even though some of it might not have been 100% accurate, I think they kind of, it's a movie, right? Yeah. I still think there needs to be background to these athletes to build that interest, and that's how you build the fan base, and that's how you build interest. Yeah. So it takes production value. So yes, I would 100% back it. We talk about this, doing even Battle for the Olympia. I would love to do some sort of build up 10 weeks out, visit each athlete and be able to do something like that. And I would love to spearhead a project like that.
Yeah.
I think that would be really cool.
Do you listen to other podcasts? If so, who?
I do. I do listen. It's mostly MMA. I'm not going to lie. Mm-hmm. I listen to MMA. If you ask me what I listened to this past week, I listened to the Dan Blazarian one on Derek's channel. Yeah. And I listen to Nick's Strength and Power sometimes on Bodybuilding News. I tune into Fuad's podcast sometimes just to catch a little bit of it. Yeah. I listen to some of the I'm watching a lot on NFTs right now, digital stuff. And then, I know you have a couple you listen to.
I listen to certain guests on Patrick B. David, like Daniel DiMartino Booth, any financial people. I listen to that. And I listen to Peter Schiff, pretty much every day.
Yeah, I've watched some of his stuff too.
Sometimes Joe Rogan. Every once in a while, something will happen in our industry, and they'll talk about it on a podcast, and someone will say, hey, did you hear this? And they'll send me the moment, and I'll listen to it for 5 or 10 minutes or something. I
don't have a consistent one. So if you ask me consistently what plays at my house, mostly MMA news, like who's fighting and what's coming up, since there's some action every week. And there's always seems to be like some sort of controversial people going back and forth. I think that's enjoyable for me.
Hey, Jay, any cool stories about Branch Warren?
Yeah, so I competed with Branch as a teenager in 93 nationals, and he was a super quiet guy. And I remember, he beat me in the overall, and he said, "Oh, we should link up or whatever," and it was just a small conversation. And then, he went to the nationals the year I turned pro in '96. He didn't do as well, and we kind of, saw each other through the years. Then we were under Muscle Tech, and I got to visit with him more often, and I always respected his work ethic. And what surprised me is I admire a lot about Branch Warren because he seems to have more. He has a lot of activities he does besides the bodybuilding thing, right?
He's got his hands in stuff like you.
Yeah, he has business, and he's one of these guys I really respect. I loved when they did the feature in Generation Iron on him and his home and the horses and all that stuff. But he's one of these guys that I enjoy spending time with when we see each other on the road, because he's just a quiet guy, but when he speaks, you want to listen because he doesn't say anything out of context. Like he never tries to show off, or it's never an ego thing, where you would be kind of surprised because the way he trains is very ballistic and a very aggressive. Yeah. So you kind of would be like, oh, he's an aggressive guy, but he's actually so down to earth and chill. Yeah. So I love having the conversations with him. Not necessarily major stories. I mean, I've watched him train, and it's unbelievable what him and Johnny Jackson have done. And he kind of I feel like Ronnie Coleman set the standard in Metroflex, and Branch kind of took over from there. And he used to tell me, I was in the gym training, and I can't imagine Branch Warren, Johnny Jackson, and Ronnie Coleman in the same gym training. Can you imagine the weights and the noise and that would be that should have been on a video.
They should have had it,
But what I always wondered is why Ronnie didn't train with those guys, like just do a collab.
I don't know.
That's a good question. So Branch, I'm asking you why wasn't there a collab on there? I think that was
you
cool.
know, just thinking of. So you and him competed as teens. What was that like then in 2009 when it was just you and him?
Yeah,
it
was amazing.
You had to look at him and think, fuck, man,
yeah,
25 years ago.
I just wonder, I wonder now because he looked his best that year, and I mean, leapfrog Dexter, who won the year prior. And I know he was probably thinking, shit, I got Jay, And I know I see some talk out there with fans saying you should have beat Jay Cutler and, whatever. I won the title that year, and I don't think he should have won, but I'm sure like he's probably looking at like, damn, I had that opportunity.
That in 08.
Yeah,
Maybe
like
he pulled it off.
He could have been Mr. Olympia. So he's like, it's kind of like the Victor Martinez thing, like he was second that one year to me. And, and a lot of people thought, oh, it could have gone either way where, 09 was my best that I had been in a long time. So it's really hard to say, well, Jay didn't deserve it. But, he was a great competitor, man. And for a guy with subpar, what they claim genetics, which I still think is amazing genetics because anyone at that level does, but destructure, meaning like he was a little shorter and whatever else than some of the guys that were Mr. Olympia 5'9", 5'10". He was a little, 5'7" or whatever. I think, he did amazing things for his physique. He always came in.
He got out every last.
And he
got.
Yeah, he got injured all the time, and he still came back.
But he never got injured in the gym.
The guy tore his quad, and he was back competing 6 months later and won. It's fucking unbelievable. So,
question: at 36, I'd like to do my first show as a natural in 2022. What advice would you give for a natural who is not enhanced who also raises a family?
I think listen, the selfishness of bodybuilding is something we talk about a lot. It's necessary to be great. But definitely being natural, you have to pay more particular with the diet, the training, the sleep. Than, we talk about recovery. And I think when you talk about enhancement stuff, it's going to help with recovery. It's going to help with shuttling nutrients. It's going to help with, it's just going to speed up everything, right? It's going to actually, I think, speed up metabolism where naturally you have to rely a little bit more on the consistency of it, how in depth, learning, you're paying more particular attention. But I think for a natural guy, sometimes you diet a little longer, you diet a little harder. You maybe not train as hard, but more consistent. So, you just have to watch your limitations. But you definitely have to have that dedication, but you still have to have that balance because, it sounds like, and I'm just going to be blunt. I mean, being natural, it's going to be hard to go beat Big Ramy at the Mr. Olympia, right? Yeah. Not to say that you can't get a pro card being natural. And there's so many divisions now. If this was 20 years ago and it was only bodybuilding, and you said, I want to win the Mr. Olympia natural in bodybuilding, I'd say it's going to be difficult, right? I'm going to be honest about that. Yeah.
I don't care.
So I would just say like a little more effort, in particular, more journaling, but having that balance. But definitely need the support around you. So the family has to be understanding with it.
What's both of your favorite Christmas movies?
Well, it says both. I would say Home Alone and Die Hard. You think consider Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was on Christmas
All right,
Eve,
so I would say Die Hard was my favorite movie of all time. It's in my theater room as a poster. Loved Bruce Willis in that, I would put Bruce Willis up there, behind Arnold and Stallone and Van Damme as like my heroes against the villains, But Home Alone just puts me in a good mood. We talk about those feel-good movies, and Home Alone definitely is, you got two different ones now. I don't know if there was a Home Alone 3, if it was relevant
There was,
or not.
but it wasn't Macaulay Culkin.
Okay, so Home Alone 1 and 2 definitely. Have I watched those every single Christmas?
Absolutely.
All three of those I've watched. Nothing else. So if you said, all right, what else is there? There's other ones too, but
see, for me, it's Christmas Vacation.
Okay.
With Cousin Eddie.
Oh, I watched this.
You have to watch that one. And Home Alone's always up there. Mm-hmm. But I always like watching Bad Santa the last 5 years because he's a total disaster.
That's you like that kind of like
just stupid comedy.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
more
I'll
your
still watch
personality.
Christmas Story. I still watch Die Hard. You have to. But on a different tip. So you mentioned three of your heroes, Arnold, Stallone, and Bruce Willis. Did you ever meet Bruce?
No.
I actually met him in high school.
Really?
Him and Demi Moore had a house north of where I lived in Wisconsin.
Okay.
and I was a bartender, and they used to come in when I was 18. And they would come in every once in a while, and then I used to see Martin Sheen and Charlie Sheen would come in. Yeah, you'd see them up there.
I saw Bruce Willis with his daughter Rumor shopping for furniture in Culver City one time.
Really?
Yeah, they were in the same. They were like over shopping, and I didn't want to bother them. Yeah. I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
Who has the best physique that never won an Olympia in any division?
I'm going to talk about bodybuilding because that's what I follow. Levrone, Sean Ray, Flex Wheeler. I'm going to say Nasser too.
If you took those 4 at their peaks, who would win of those 4 that you just named? If they were all...
It's hard, dude, because Kevin and Sean were both second. Like, Sean Ray was unbelievable, dude, when he was, like, on. Kevin was great, but I felt Sean was more complete, but I think Wheeler probably...
Yeah.
Like, in 93, Wheeler was pretty incredible, right?
He was, like, what, 220 or something like that?
Yeah, 215, I think, or something.
He was low. See, I have a different... I mean, I would say Flex Wheeler, and I still think Candace Lewis has...
Okay, yeah, it's different divisions.
And I think it's a travesty she never won. Because in my opinion, she's the most flawless female physique to ever walk across the stage. And she got second, I think, 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
And
who was she second to?
Latoya.
Okay.
And Sydney.
Okay.
And Nicole Wilkins, I think. So she was just always right there. She'd win the Arnold, and then she'd get second at the Olympia. She'd win the Arnold, second. And it was just back and forth and back and forth. But I think Flex Wheeler and Open.
Yeah, listen, I mean,
there's not enough history.
Kai Green was pretty good too.
Yeah, he could be up there.
I didn't think about Kai Green.
He could have pulled it off in 14 when Phil had the first.
If he would have stayed with it, Kai Green would have won the Olympia.
Oh, for sure.
It's too late now, but he could have done it.
Just think of the year that Roden won. He could have potentially won that year. He could have beat Phil in those later years. Yeah. He had enough to beat him. And now you still see him, and he's still as big as he is, and you're like, man. Well, just imagine if he would have went down in history as getting an Olympia. But
yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, Dexter Jackson also, like, he won the Olympia, but I think that, like, he was so consistent, right? I mean, I just hate leaving him out of the talk of, like, GOAT status.
I mean, if you go by resume,
he's the best ever,
Yeah, the most wins, and he won.
I think he gets overlooked a lot because, Ronnie obviously won 8 and Haney won 8 and Dorian, Arnold won 7, Dorian won 6.
Yeah. But the fact that he got one at his size during the time of the Mass
Phil
Monsters.
Heath won 7. So I just think that Dexter, should never be left out of the top Mr. Olympia. I would put him, I wouldn't even consider myself as important on that top as Dexter Jackson is.
Ronnie, probably him.
Yeah, Ronnie and Phil, and you got to look at number one, the records, right? So it's like Ronnie, Lee Haney, Arnold, Phil, Dorian,
and then you.
Me, but Dexter, I think, should be in there even with one win. He should be somewhere in that namesake.
No, he should in that top 3. I think in the top 3 of all time, he should be there. Just because of the consistency and the fact that he legit won every possible major show there
It's
is.
kind of funny because I just, as we were going through this, there's a few people I want to have on the podcast. Number one's Flex Wheeler. He's here.
Yep.
I would love to get Dexter because he comes, his daughter's here. And Kai Green would be amazing too, kind of.
Of course.
I want to be like,
that's
dude.
something I wanted to say, in this particular podcast. I want people to list who they want us to have on here because we got a couple guests and the difference between this podcast and a lot of other ones, we're not just going to zero in just on bodybuilders because there's a lot of people that bring a lot to the table that are still in the fitness realm. Our first, person was Brian Shaw. He's not a bodybuilder, but he's still part of the fitness family. So if there's someone that you think we should have on there, comment below and let us know. And we'll do our best we'll definitely get more people.
Yeah, we kind of been going back and forth with a lot of the podcasts because of the times and everything is we always wanted to have in-person guests.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to stick to that. So every time I talk about doing a podcast, even to my friends or whatever, they're like, oh, who you have on? And I'm like, we're limiting who we have on because we want it to be
authentic.
I just think, when someone's in person and you get their reactions a little more.
Yeah.
I hate Zooms. I hate all that stuff. Like I do a lot of podcasts like that, but I just think that, when people are in person, we kind of wait for the opportunity and unlike a lot of these things, like this is just like it's a thing we decided to do just because we have a lot of conversations amongst ourselves that we list, well, we should have got this on film, right? Yeah. And like we're trending great, but our goal is, obviously to build up a following on this, just to build interest. But we want to talk about topics that people want to hear.
Yeah.
And I know on my core is the fitness side, but I hope that we can bring in some relative people. We talk about financial people. We want to talk a lot about, the NFTs and the crypto stuff, but I'm just not as well versed with it that I never will speak on something that I don't know.
Yeah.
So I want to ask the questions, because, people talk a lot that don't really know the in-depth of it.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the metaverse. I mean, I just met with my financial advisor. He talked about the metaverse and NFTs, and he thought, hey, your opportunity is great in these areas. And I'm just learning more. I try to read up on it and converse with people. And I think the best thing for me is the conversations. And I think that's what we're going to focus on for 2022. Yeah. And maybe, it's great because we'll be able to learn some more stuff too.
Yeah. I think it's good when you get someone on that has a certain skill set or a certain knowledge that you want to learn, because it's not just you're talking with a friend or something, you're actually learning it. And if we're learning something, this is stuff that other people are learning.
We need to get Peter Schiff on the
No, I told you, I reached out to him. Yeah. And Peter Schiff, if we ever go to, I don't know if he's coming to Vegas anytime soon, but he's like, if you guys come down to.
So I think what we may try to do is do mobile stuff. And
J-Mac, you want to go travel? Nah, he loves Vegas. He doesn't want to go nowhere.
Yeah.
He wants to go to Utah. But no, that would actually be a cool podcast to go down to Puerto Rico and actually go sit around and learn about the tax break benefits of moving to Puerto Rico. And who better than the guy that's the forefront worldwide to promote that area. And he's also, a well-known financial guy. So that could be a cool podcast, set it up down there and do something a little different. But he would be real good to have on there.
Yeah, so make sure you guys comment. Make sure you guys ask the questions. We do need our common questions. We'll get back at it next week. And, for episode 18, we would love you guys to subscribe, like, follow, share, but more importantly, comment on what you guys would love to see.
Thank you, everyone, for listening so far.
Yeah, happy 2022, guys. And I don't know when
safe.
I don't know when this is going to launch, but
I don't know. It's up to J-Mac. We'll get up today.
Okay, so all the best, guys. Welcome. It's the first upon us, and let's crush it for 2022.
We're out.